So this past weekend saw the final open beta test for Diablo IV. Dubbed the Server Slam, this 2-day event gave Blizzard a final chance to test and adjust before the game's launch and players a little taste of the action, with a couple of rewards to be earned should they complete some relatively easy in-game objectives before the slam ended. Being a huge Diablo fan and wanting to test the waters before committing to a purchase, I decided to give the PS5 version of the game a go. And so in today's video, I'll be giving you a rundown of my thoughts and experiences of the game based on the limited time that I spent with it, and letting you know my decision on whether or not to purchase it. My name's Luke, welcome to PlayStation Corner, and let's get started. So I'll start by saying that I had an absolute blast playing this beta, especially after the huge disappointment that was Diablo Immortal, and for me this felt like a return to form for the series. Gone are the cartoony visuals of Diablo 3, and instead we return to the much darker aesthetic of the originals, with the added benefit of next-gen hardware providing some high-definition environments and pixel-perfect gore for you to salivate over. For me though, the game felt like it sat as somewhat of a mixture of Diablo 2 and 3 and Immortal, in that its open world design allows you to progress at your leisure, picking up side quests, delving into dungeons and partaking in world events alongside other players. But it also feels a lot less flashy than Immortal. Like I said, the atmosphere is a lot darker with this one, combat is more visceral, and the abilities don't light up like the 4th of July, but there's still that satisfying punchiness to them. Understandably, there will still be those who criticise the game for not just being a carbon copy of Diablo 2, and indeed a lot of criticism has already been thrown towards the classes, specifically towards the nerfs that they've received, which sees some early game builds being completely unviable. But like other content creators have stated, this is not the final product, and just because you can't obliterate everything in your path with a measly 20 or so skill points to spend, doesn't mean the build you're planning on using in the endgame will prove completely useless. I myself opted to use the Necromancer for the duration of the beta and found the minion based build to be pretty unplayable, as any big AoE attacks would just see them obliterated in a matter of seconds, and I know there was problems with other classes such as the Barbarian Shouts and some of the Druid skills, but as far as I'm aware this is already something that's being addressed. That being said, these issues didn't stop me from enjoying myself. On the contrary, it forced me to try out other builds and get a real feel for everything in the Necro's arsenal, at least so far as the early game goes. I had no issues at all hitting the level cap and was even able to kill a Sharba the Pestilent, netting myself the bonus content, and in the end I still ended up being a wrecking ball after decking myself out with a bunch of different unique items. Now the game has 5 classes in total, those being the Barbarian, Necromancer, Druid, Sorceress and Rogue, and if you want a full in-depth breakdown of the mechanics of each of them, I recommend checking out the Ultimate Class Guide from a guy called Canon. But in terms of character creation, the customization options are relatively simple but offer a decent amount of variety, giving you a choice of either male or female characters and a bunch of different presets to select from, or alternatively you can design your own character yourself, selecting things like skin tones, eye colours, hairstyles and a variety of tattoos and makeup, and while admittedly the isometric perspective of the game means some of the finer details will be hard to see whilst playing, it does allow for at least a little personalisation, and no doubt there will be plenty of cosmetic items released to make yourself stand out from the crowd. Getting into the game though, the story in this one starts off simple enough, with you tasked with helping a village to clear out some ruins infested by demons and a rather nasty baron, but it seems the villagers have ulterior motives, and after drugging you and attempting to perform some kind of dodgy ritual on you, you'll find yourself on an ill-fated path which will undoubtedly see you facing off against Lilith, daughter of the Lord of Hatred Mephisto, and this game's main baddie. The cutscenes in the game all look fantastic though, the voice acting is on point, and aside from some of the side quest dialogue, I enjoyed sitting through all of the story related content I played, but there is the option to skip it all, which will be a must have for repeat playthroughs. Once you get through the intro though, you're then dropped into the main world, or at least a segment of it known as the Fractured Peaks, a mostly snow-covered landscape with a few small settlements, the main one being Kjolvashad, our sanctuary for this portion of the game. And from here you can follow the main quest line, which takes you to a few different locations, including some underground mines and mystical ruins where we get a little more backstory as to how Lilith is ready to rumble, or alternatively, like me, you can go out and explore the surrounding lands, delving into dungeons, taking on stronghold bosses, completing side quests, or partaking in world events with the randomers you meet along the way. And I have to say, I really liked how open the game felt. Like, I wasn't just being forced down a specific path and was able to progress at my own pace whilst still feeling as though I was achieving something. Admittedly, I didn't actually get around to finishing the story content by the time the beta was up, but if I'm honest, I really didn't care that much. I just wanted to see what was on offer, and by the looks of things it seems like there will be plenty to fill your time with once the game releases. Now when it comes to the combat, if you've played Diablo before, or indeed any action RPG, you know the score with this one. It's all about turning hordes of enemies into mulch with an assortment of powerful abilities. However, in comparison to the previous entries and games like Path of Exile, where you're an unstoppable force from the get-go, to me the battles in Diablo IV felt a lot more pared back and methodical, at least in the early game. Sure, there are still plenty of pathetically weak underlings to slaughter, but amongst them you'll usually find a more powerful leader or two who hits hard and whose heavy attacks, usually indicated by obvious wind-up animations or ground markers, you'll need to avoid. And in this sense the combat feels a little more strategical, requiring to use your dodges and focusing on specific targets and take them down quickly if you want to come out unscathed. The same can be said of the abilities. Rather than overwhelming you by giving you a million different spells to choose from, each class comes with 4 different basic attacks which usually generate resources needed for your core abilities, and a bunch of different passes to enhance them with. And these range from damage dealing abilities and crowd control skills, to buffs, debuffs, defensive abilities and ultimates, and in total each character has around 20 or so of these to choose from. Each class though also comes with its own unique mechanics, giving them very different playstyles. For instance, the Necromancer generates essence to use their abilities, which come in 4 different flavours. They create corpses when killing or damaging enemies, which are then used to activate various abilities or summon minions. And the minions consist of skeletal warriors, skeletal mages and golems, each of which have 3 different specialist varieties. You can even sacrifice your minion summoning abilities in favour of additional passive buffs, and like I said, I didn't play any of the other classes, but all in all there looks to be a good amount of variety on offer when it comes to playstyles, and this beta is in no way an indicator as to how viable each playstyle will be, but the Paragon system definitely looks to shake things up a bit once you get into the endgame content. One thing I did get to try out however was the legendary aspect system, which essentially allows you to imprint your equipment with special modifiers that can completely change how abilities work. And these aspects can actually be removed from one piece of equipment and applied to other pieces, which should really allow for a lot of versatility and min-maxing of characters for those looking to squeeze every ounce of power out of them. Now in total I've probably spent about 10 or so hours with the game, and from what I've seen so far, I have to say I'm thoroughly impressed. At its core, it definitely feels like an old school Diablo game to me. Dungeons were mostly linear affairs which saw me working my way through them, battling groups of enemies before culminating in a boss fight, and loops was aplenty, though nowhere near as excessive as in previous titles. But it's the open world approach which definitely felt like a breath of fresh air, and while there will no doubt be a huge amount of grinding involved to snag some of those god tier equipables, I personally feel like this less linear approach is a step in the right direction for the series. How it shapes up in the long run is still yet to be seen, but taking a leaf from Path of Exile's book, Diablo IV will include leagues, or seasons as they're known in this one, where every 3 months you'll get a unique set of mechanics to play with, requiring you to create a fresh character to participate, It's a tried and tested formula, and one which will hopefully keep things fresh and provide a regular influx of new content to enjoy. That being said, they really need to ensure that these leagues and endgame content are something that players want to keep coming back for more of, especially considering that once you complete the game once, unlike Path of Exile, you're able to skip it entirely when a new league starts, so hopefully there's enough to keep players engaged for at least the first couple of months of each league. Now of course we can't end this video without talking about microtransactions, something which historically Blizzard have been heavily slated on and which utterly ruined Diablo Immortal for a lot of people, but the latest developer update aimed to reassure fans that Diablo IV will not be pay to win. The game's seasonal pass features both a free track and a paid track, with players completing objectives to earn favour and progress through its levels, but only the free track rewards the Smouldering Ashes, which can be spent to boost some in-game stats, while the premium pass has both a $10 version and a $25 version, which also grants you a 20 premium level skip, but the paid track only rewards cosmetic items such as armour sets and mounts, so nothing to give you an unfair advantage in game. And this is something that has worked well in Path of Exile, save for a few controversial visual cosmetics, so hopefully Blizzard will stick to the promises of Diablo IV not being pay to win, and maybe even claw back a little of that reputation that they've managed to squander over the past few years. So I guess the question left yet to be answered is, based on my experience with the beta and all of the details we've had on Diablo IV, will I be picking the game up at launch? And to that I have to say yes. Yes, I will be picking it up in just over 2 weeks time, and yes, I probably will be even coughing up the extra 20 quid to get the 4-day early access, and there will probably be a ton of issues at launch and a whole load of balancing still yet to be done. But like many, I feel like this is the Diablo game that I've been waiting for, and I'm under no illusions that it won't be as iconic as Diablo 2 and may even turn out to be a complete flop. But so far everything indicates that it's going to turn out to be a damn good Diablo game, and I for one am stoked to play it come the 2nd of June. With that said though, did you participate in the beta? How did you find it? And did it sway you to either pick the game up at launch or avoid it completely? Let me know down in the comments section below, and as always, drop a like if you enjoyed this one, and subscribe to the channel for more PlayStation deals, reviews and PSVR 2 content. I've been Luke, thank you all once again for watching, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Thanks everyone, take care.